First of all, thank you again for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah, when last we spoke, we were zoomed into the Angelica together
That's
from
right. Right.
which I still love describing that because it's so weird to say like he was in Texas, she was in California, I was in Toronto at a film
Yep.
festival.
hmm
I'm sure people in New York watched us on screen and I thought it was a good idea to make an OnlyFans joke and Mark said it was okay, so I knew I wouldn't get in trouble and like the second day, because we were bored. We were just like, what if when we come on, I just say something about OnlyFans? Like we didn't know we were being recorded. And you were like, great, love it. So always
And
good when
I,
I
I am not the mayor, but
yeah, exactly. Like
yeah.
who's gonna who's gonna
hmm
yell at you? And I can just blame you. So it worked out great.
Great.
Um, I as always, and I've told this to you before, I always love when you're in anything, just because there's something about your presence that I think you obviously have earned, but I think is also just some actors and some filmmakers and some artists just have it where you go, I like when I see that person and I'm willing to go wherever they're going.
That makes me feel
And
good. Thank you.
well, yeah. And I think you do a really good job of not abusing the privilege, for lack of a better word. We've talked about this before, like, you say no more than yes throughout your career. The levels obviously have changed, but there is always a sense of when I see you pop up or get cast in something or announce you're signing on to something or working with someone that something caught your eye. There's like a glint in your eye. And and that's exciting. That's a commodity that I think an audience values because
Mm,
it's so often not the case. And you don't begrudge someone taking a job, right? We
yeah.
all need to pay our bills. Some bills are bigger than others. And the worst job is still fun in this line of work. But there's something about when you're like getting to do your thing that I think people respond to and look at their reactions to sort of the big moment your character gets in the finale as people are all about it. Like, how does that feel? Also, just like knowing you did a good job and people think you did a good job, It's such a simple thing, but how often
Well,
it's
here's the thing. It feels better than I would like it to,
yeah.
because it makes me realize something about myself, which is that I do care more than I would like to about feeling good and getting accolades and having people say, "Yay, Mark!" Because we all have egos. Um, that being said, the morning show is a particularly fun one for me because um, I was nervous to take this job from day one. I remember getting off of the league and I remember doing togetherness and our company was really growing at this point. And I remember telling myself and telling everybody at the company, I can't take an acting gig anymore, a long-term acting gig where I'm not the boss because I have to be flexible to do Duplass Brothers stuff. And then literally a few months after that, they came to me with the morning show, and I was like, "Okay, guys, I know I said I'm not gonna right." And I've always been nervous about that. It's like when we shoot like 6 months out of the year. But there's just been something so special about the morning show for me in general, which is I have been able to integrate into this massively scaled television show, which is I don't really know how to make a show like that. I don't want to know how to produce a show like that. It looks so hard and complicated, but I've been able to integrate into it and still essentially do what I like to do as an actor, which is to be a befuddled, somewhat mumbling, improvising, naturalistic performer inside of a very stylized show that is about lots of big things. And they've really embraced me as opposed to said, all right, Mark, we love the puffy chair, but now you got to do this. They basically brought me in and said, like, keep puffying up, man. This is like what we love. And to your point, even delivering me a big monologue at the end of the season like that, it feels like in some way that should be this sort of word perfect David Mamet style thing. But even in those moments, they encourage me to loosen it up and make it my own and do my own thing. So I've been really lucky to be able to I guess just to have them honor me for what I'm good at as opposed to try and put me into something else.
Oh, yeah, because it doesn't happen often. We
Oh,
both see the same stuff where you're like, I know you watched that other person's movie or show or work, but why? You had a meeting about this person, but you fundamentally misunderstand them. But that
mm,
But I don't usually get that sense with you, which is obviously, I think you also have the sense of like, you don't actually want me, or this isn't right for me. But, it would be weird to watch, like, oh, we saw Jeff who lives at home. You're like, okay, cool, great. Thank you for watching it. You action here? Wait, hang on. There is a fundamental disconnect here where I now doubt that you actually watched the thing. But I think when you pop up in a bigger project, Zero Dark 30 is always a good example. Like, that's the only character in that film you could have played. But you're
Mhm.
perfect for that role because, like, that is the guy who would go, I don't know. There's a building there. It could be something.
Yep.
Like I'll look
Yep.
into it. Like that's my entire job. I don't have to carry a gun. I don't have to do anything else. I'm gonna look at this picture for a while and I'll figure something out. And here, like to be able to be a little befuddled, and even as you're getting to rant and rave, still sort of like pulling back a little bit, but to be like, I know this is wrong. I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I have to. But I know it's wrong, but I have to. And I think that's sort of the core of what we like about you and your stuff and the Duplass brothers stuff. And there is that humanity. Nobody ever is like fully confident in themselves. There's that really realistic human element that you guys do so well that I think when someone understands, they can weaponize in a way. And I think this is a great example of that.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. I mean, I think that there was this really interesting thing that happened to that point. At the end of season one, I think there really wasn't this design that, it was always Chip was always going to be the stressed out behind the scenes
Huh.
producer. We always knew that. But there really wasn't this intense design of this Achilles heel and ultimate vulnerability of Chip's in his relationship with Alex Levy. That was something that we kind of started to organically build naturally. Part of it was just because Jen and I got along so well. We loved doing our scenes together. We ended up adding things. You could feel like how much we really like each other. And it was fun for us to play cat and mouse and fight and yell. And then I think once we clicked in on, I guess to your point, trying to bring that humanity, that thing about Chip, which is he's really great at his job. He can manipulate people really well. Massive Achilles heel, Alex Lee. And that kind of ignited um, something almost like a new North Star for Chip that we've been chasing through season two and season three, and pulling that thread constantly of he's so obsessed with her that he would go there when he doesn't even have COVID and say he has COVID. He's so obsessed with her that, when he watches her develop a crush on another person, he will rationalize every reason about why he's upset except for the truth, which is that he is obsessed with her. And I think it's been really wonderful, again, to your point, that ultimately I'm a relationship person. That's just what I'm obsessed with. And part of what I brought to this show was that energy. And they kind of were like, great, let's keep pulling those threads. That's what's working.
I think when you do it right, it can be malleable. Like there is no reason why you can't have the same sort of chemistry with a Jennifer Aniston that you can with like a Jason Mantzoukas. Like you're just actors, right?
Yeah.
If you're doing it well, it should work. And obviously, there's other reasons why things won't always connect. But I think
Yep. Yep.
that's having a good sense of who you are, who the character is, what you're capable of. Like, there's something about watching interesting mixes, watching someone who
Mm.
has a background in an indie film be able to be in a giant production, not seem lost. And like you said, you don't want to make it. You don't really want to know how it's made. But like to be able to have just enough freedom to go, as long as I'm not costing you guys extra money, I can like do this a little bit over here. That's great. That's all I've ever wanted to do. It doesn't cost another dime. Let's try it. Like there's something there.
There's something really beautiful about what happened with the morning show that, I mean, I guess I'm speaking a little bit out of school, but it's like when you're making a big show like that and you're Apple, you're like, okay, we've got Jen and we've got Reese, and in
Yeah.
season one, we got Steve Carell, we've got Billy Crudup's entree into television, essentially. We've got this massive juggernaut, and unfortunately, we've spent all our money
Yeah.
on them. So who are we going to cast in the number 5 on the cast list role that can hang with them and isn't going to cost us too much money because we run out of money? And I am the perfect fit, not only because am I not as expensive as the others, but their version of not too much money is more money than I've ever
Oh, yeah.
seen. So everybody is happy. And there is this understanding between me and the morning show folks that I'm so grateful to be there. I'm so grateful for what this job has given me, not only creatively to be able to come in and give me these like once or twice a year, there's always these like wonderful scenes, like the big fight scene at the end of season two, where I'm in the car with Alex Levy and we have it out, or in season three, it's the big firing scene or the big scene where I blow everything up on the broadcasts. They kind of give me and write these big moments for me. Um, and I just feel like I don't know. I'm so blessed to be able to do that, have that great creative work, and at the same time, it fits right into the larger scope of what I'm trying to do with my career, which is kind of like John Cassavetes, essentially. Like, let my face be known on large format shows and movies and make a decent paycheck, have a good time there, and then be able to go and make a biosphere or make these small things that I love. And that duality has, or I guess balance really has been really happy making for me in an industry that's very, very hard to find balance.
Oh, it's almost like a mistake when it happens. Like it's
Yeah.
not gonna happen. Because
Yeah.
it's not designed to happen. Nothing's evil about it, but just all the things that work out in your favor are accidents, essentially. It's funny you
Yeah.
mentioned Biosphere. Absolutely love that movie. We were supposed to talk, you and Sterling, and then the writer's strike happened like at like
Right.
5 minutes before the interview, and I got the email going, they'd be more comfortable not. And I went,
Uh-huh. And they by being our representatives and everyone for sure.
they're like,
Um,
go ahead.
Biosphere was such a funny little thing that happened because IFC put out the film in conjunction with AMC and writer strike happened. We weren't really able to promote it. Of course, some of our fans found it, but it really wasn't able to break out in the way we hoped it could. So we're like, all right. And then 6 months later, after its release, it drops on Hulu in a secondary window. And now everybody's finding it on Hulu, and everybody thinks it's a Hulu original movie that they've never heard of before. It's so weird how
Yeah.
that stuff happens. And I'm grateful for it. But
That was a
yeah,
good one for that because also everyone was so good about not spoiling anything about it because also how would you explain it?
yeah, I
Like
know.
I remember wanting to tell someone being like, you're gonna think I'm lying and you're gonna think it's weird, but just trust me, like they also get to this very quickly. Like I don't even think I am spoiling it. I can tell you what happens in the first hour. Still more happens. Like but that is the core of like I think even if I told someone what that movie was about and they went, wait, what? Because it's you. I think there are people who would give it a chance. I think just like, the big sort of blow up scene here where people like that scene because it's you and there's a sense of it is what we think he would think. He would have this reaction. He would be like, I can't help it. I have to do this because
Right.
you've engendered that sort of goodwill and humanity and aw shucks is the wrong word, but like
No,
there's a like that's a good guy. And
yeah.
and that is a really hard sort of commodity to not come off as phony because you can tell when someone's crafting that image, right? And it's weird when that happens. But just to be
That's
like,
a good
I don't
point.
know.
There are those roles that are like aw shucks roles, and I know the people who are playing them and they're assholes in real life, and I can't watch those things. It really gets me.
Ugh.
But to
Good
your point,
actor, but
Chip, yeah, that big blow up at the end, it was really cool the way they crafted that. I really have to give it up to Charlotte and the whole writing team because what I did like about it, where in season one, Chip basically is kind of, for lack of a better option, a voice of reason,
yeah.
in a world of really kind of like fucked up moral compasses. But in season three, what I like about it is that Chip's Achilles heel, I think, really does get in the way for a little bit. His obsession with Alex, him trying to develop some semblance of a relationship with Isabella, just desperately trying. It's almost like it almost reminds me of Days of Heaven. He's like a closeted gay man, just like trying to stay on the rails because he can't admit his true feelings. And I think that his jealousy about her relationship with Paul Marks, it interferes with, for a moment, his journalistic integrity, which is the most important thing he has. So I love that he was able to try to get it back in the end, but I love that the only way he was able to do it really was to assassinate his own career in the process, because anybody who gets on national television and does what he does is really incapable of being hired by any other network ever again, because they know they can't trust him. Once you come out and Norma Ray and prove yourself to be a flag wielding bastion of truth, you're essentially unhireable in that industry. So I like that element.
Oh yeah, I love when people are shocked that you can't just go rogue. Like even something as
Yeah.
silly as like embargoes and like our line of work. Like, how come you're listening to us do? I was like, because I want to still have my job, and then you'll think it's fun for 2 seconds when I break it and say something about Star Wars 37, but then you
Yes.
go about your life, and then my dog goes hungry, and
Yes.
that
You
becomes a
have to,
problem. Like
there are consequences here.
exactly.
Yes.
Like the recourse is the only action there. So like I think there's something about also being given here evolution to your character and being able to explore things because there are shows where that doesn't happen if you're not first, second, third build. It's just that's where the
Yeah.
focus is, and you're meant to be the steady, right? And you show up, and like many an actor has gone 10 years on a show and done that and been like, this is great. I cash check, I do my thing, everyone likes me, move on. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I
No,
think
that's
the key is, and the reason why I think you're a good fit here, and why shows that do this tend to last is that because you inevitably like other characters. How many shows are the lead actually your favorite character, right? So
right.
when someone goes, I like Chip, or whoever they like on any show, and then suddenly there's an arc, you start to go, oh, someone in the writer's room likes that character
Yes.
too. And that
Yes.
that always is a good thing, even if it does lead to, something bad happening. Characters sometimes will
Yeah.
die that way. But like there is something to that where you go, someone else feels the way I do, and that's exciting because that means the show is gonna kind of be thinking about what I might like, while still
Yeah.
obviously doing its own thing.
Yeah, this it's funny that you mentioned that because as you say that, what occurs to me and what starts resonating is how well our writers have gotten to know all of us in the cast and played into our strengths in lots of ways. Like giving Billy those like juicy outlier, multi-syllabic, fast-talking monologues where he makes metaphors that don't quite make sense. Are and they wrote one of those in season one, and they're like, "Oh, this is his thing. Like, let him go."
Found
And
it.
then they realize like with Karen, playing Mia, like Karen doesn't need words. Karen's face is everything. So it's like cut half of the dialogue, and she will just give you whatever you need from her face. And I think one of the things they identified with me, which I was very honored to, is like I can handle the business and the sort of athletic event of the hallway walk and talk while passing off papers, receiving papers, knowing that inevitably, oh shit, I'm supposed to get to Billy with these 3 lines. I'm getting there too soon, so I have to improvise and cut a couple of these lines so it works out. Or I'm not getting there soon enough. I have to improvise and add some things. That is one of my favorite things to do. And I think after the first one I did of those in season one, the writers were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
let's do the Sorkin walk and talk through the
Yeah.
halls, Mark." And it's funny if you go back and see season one. There's some scenes where I'm just kind of taking laps around the hall,
Yeah.
like not going anywhere in
Yeah.
particular. But I love that stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I've thought several times like you would be great in a Sorkin thing, except you guys would argue like in a fun way about like no, like read the lines, just do it,
No,
just do it.
he would
Hold
kill
on.
me. He
Exactly.
would kill
See,
me. I would probably kill him too.
exactly. You both would be like, I love this dialogue. I love the way you're doing it. Just don't
Yeah.
cut my line. Just don't write me that extra. Like it would
I'd be like, you
kill
don't you
the
don't
two of you.
realize that
Yeah.
the and the stutter and the like
Yeah.
are what's making this human. Please let me do it.
Yeah, no, I remember interviewing Timothy Busfield about like you did it and then you directed some of the stuff. He's like, yeah, there is a specific way to do this, and
Yeah.
once you learn it, then you're good. But until you learn it, you're
Yeah.
wrong, and you just have to accept that you're wrong, and that's the way this is gonna go. And that's there's so many things where that's not the case, right? But I think I when we talk about like secondary characters coming alive, it does take, I think, sometimes just one person in the room. And the longer a
Yeah.
show goes on, the more inevitable that'll happen. But like I think of The Simpsons, right? Think about how many times they went, we never did a show about Otto or like whatever character that like
Right.
they did nothing for 15 years. Let's give them an episode. And they
Yeah.
always tend to work because if you love a character, you do think about what they're doing when they're not on screen. And the less
Yeah.
screen time you have, the more that is the case. And here it is just sort of like this is the right character to shine in these scenes. It's just being well utilized. And I think the filmmaker side of you must appreciate that too. Just like, yeah, they know how to they use me.
I really do appreciate that. I mean, I'll open up the cloak a little bit because the morning show and the way that the show is run and the way that the show is cast, we keep bringing in more characters every season, and so there's only so much airtime. There's only 60 pages of stuff we can do in an episode. So what it means is, whereas in season one I was in like 80% of the scenes, as the seasons go along, all of us, we are in fewer and fewer scenes. And some of my compatriots are really upset about that because they're just like, man, where's my screen time? But as far as I'm concerned, this has turned into the greatest job in the universe
Yeah.
because if an episode shoots 13 days and now I work like 3 or 4 of those, and usually they're very efficient with the time they give me, and the stuff they give me is not hanging around in a boardroom in the background. It's like when they bring you in, they give you the great stuff to do. And so I get to do this in conjunction with my producing career. It's like it's pretty incredible. I am deeply going to miss this show, and I'm so grateful we're getting a season 4 because honestly, I thought we were going to be 2 seasons and done. If I would have made a bet, I thought Apple was kind of just going to be like, look, this show's great, but it's really, really expensive, and we used you to kickstart us out the gate, and
Yeah.
now we're going to
Everyone
go
gets an
see what.
iPad. Now peace out.
Yeah, yes, but man, the fact that we're still going is it's a little miracle. So I'm
No,
grateful.
I think that's sort of, it defies the odds in that way. And I think, like you
Yeah.
said, like how can you not be happy? Like I don't get paid less, and I get to be here just to work, and then I can spend more time thinking about the other stuff than maybe I would have 6, 7, 8 years ago when it was like, okay, gotta go get a job to go make sure I can do the next thing and not be
Yeah.
concerned. It's a job. And here you are, you're like you're fulfilled, but also you can sort of keep one eye on the ball. It's kind of perfect. If you're a Mark Duplass fan, this is the best thing that could have happened.
This is a really, really good thing. And I don't know what's going to happen after the morning show. I don't know that I will take another sort of long-term TV acting gig. I don't even know what the appetite for those kinds of shows are going to be like. We're heading into something quite different now. I mean, a lot of the stuff I'm doing is making TV more cheaply and independently, just so we can guarantee the presence of these things. And I might live in that space more. So who knows? This could be my last hurrah in big premium TV, but we'll just have to see.
I know you'll make Marvel next. It's fine. We know. It's inevitable. That would yeah, that it's funny, like the like chills that went down your spine at the thought of that. You're like, no, never.
Really, Marvel has knocked on our door a couple of times,
I know.
and part of it for me is I really just don't want to leave town. My
Yeah.
kids are still in school, and I want to be around for them. But I have to be honest, like I had this one moment. I can walk the streets
Yeah.
and I don't get mobbed by people. But I had this one moment for about 2 weeks after the movie Tammy came out, where I started with Melissa McCarthy, and it made $100 million at the box office. It was everywhere, and I lost my anonymity for that 2 weeks. Everybody knew who I was, and it scared the shit out of me.
Yep. It's not your
And
job. It's not your bag.
that's not if you. I think if you go and do a Marvel show, like I watched Sebastian Stan go
Yeah.
away into that zone, and that's terrifying to me. So yeah, I don't know if Marvel's in my future.
No, it's funny, it's a compliment to be asked to do things, obviously. Like it's never a bad thing when someone calls and goes, we think you're great for this. Like you don't, but like thank you for the call. But there is something to like if I'm and it's in counter and as we wrap up, it's kind of counterintuitive to the industry. Is like I like where I'm at. Like
Yeah,
everyone hates that. Agents hate that. Like everyone makes money hates that. But there is something to like I won't be happier this way. And like if
I
I'm
think you really
happy,
hit on something.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, not to get all high horsey, but there is something I talk about a lot when I'm talking to people. And I think that the one thing that has made me the most consistently happy in this industry is that I guess I had a lower bar for success. I didn't really think I was going to get half as far as I have gotten. And once I sort of reached that bar, I made a decision consciously, to your point, to stop reaching up and asking people for help to bring me up there, but realizing that there were just as many people one rung of the ladder below me who were dying to get where I was. And I said, well, I could spend my time reaching up, or I could just turn around and reach down and try and bring somebody up to where I'm at. And that has single-handedly been the thing that's made me the most happy in this industry.
Because you could make a bigger thing, right? There's always a job that way once you have a presence, right? That's you'll never be hungry or lonely if you really want a big job, right? Someone will hire you to be ninth build in a thing.
That's
But
true.
you could do that, and that's fine, and that's a job, and you do what you do. But you could do language lessons, or you could make a franchise out of creep. All these
Yep.
things are like they don't count as things to the industry because they don't cost enough, right? So you can kind of do what you want, and then you have this good feeling inside, and you got to do the thing you want to do. It is funny that, like you said, as we sort of end that, like Apple was like, well, we can just underpay this guy, and that's fine. Oh, what does he know? You went, holy shit, they're paying me so. Don't say it. Just say yes. Like don't like
It
say.
was literally like the moment in Dumb and Dumber. It's just like every time I think you couldn't do something any dumber.
Yep. They're like, all right,
So
yeah.
yeah, here
No,
we are. Yeah.
as it should be. Always a pleasure to speak with you, and I love doing it for the little stuff and also this kind of stuff because it does. I think it sort of like opens up different pathways in the brain for a conversation because it's the work is the work, but you also want to talk to the person, and I love
Yeah.
when we.
And look, I appreciate your support of the little stuff, but I think that the support of the big stuff supports the little stuff too,
Exactly.
because this whole like, just to speak candidly, this whole like Emmys grubbing time that everyone's going through right now is kind of gross, but I've also learned to realize that like, oh, if that happens for me, that opens up so many more
Yeah.
doors to do the things that I want to do. So I appreciate you supporting me in my grubbing.
Yeah, same with Jay. Like, no, like listen, yeah, it's weird, right? To have to be like, no, I don't want awards while doing a thing about getting awards. But you're like,
Right.
it is basically people just saying nice things to me all day long. Like it
Yeah.
could be worse, and like, oh, I may have to be flown somewhere or something. Like at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world.
No,
But
it's not.
it is funny to be able to acknowledge. I think once you acknowledge it,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to
That's
do.
right. That's
Like if
right.
you don't acknowledge it, then it's like, no, no, this is all about, you're like, no, no, guys, we know what it's about, but
This
that's
is
cool. You're
it's a
allowed to have it.
facilitating. Yes.
Exactly. Always a pleasure, my friend.
All right, my friend.
Always.